We got to talk Bitcoin. 610 subs. Cannot thank you guys enough. We're up 110 subs in the last 28 days, and we got there faster than we expected. But if you guys remember, getting to 600 subs was more than just a milestone for the channel.
Well, actually, if we get up to 600,
We get up to 600, exactly.
He will buy 600 more shares of ALYI.
No, Vitaly.
I'll do $100 into ALYI. I will. Guys, we're making a deal here. 600 subs for our channel within 2 weeks.
2 weeks,
and
which
I'm
would
putting
mean
in $100 into ALYI.
This option expires October 22nd, guys. This is an
Guys,
option.
if you want to see me lose $100,
this is the option, right? The strike price is 600 subs. We have a 2-week time limit.
I'll buy $100 worth. So how many shares is that?
I think if you don't make it 1,000, it's not enough.
Nah, I'm not doing $1,000 on that piece of.
You know what that tells you guys? That tells you
that.
that he actually thinks we can get to 600 subs in 2 weeks.
I
That's how
think
confident he is of it, but it's also how cheap he is. Anyway,
that's true.
Moving on.
Guys, save your money, buy some Tesla.
Here we are on the 19th. We have 610 subs. So get ready. In the next couple of days, we're going to drop the video of Vitaly taking $100 of his hard-earned money and giving it to the pumpers at ALYI. And in another bit of news, continuing the interview series that we started with Mark Fronmayer of Arcimoto, we're ready to announce that we have booked Brent Wilson, CEO of NeoVolta, on Freelancer Finance, coming soon. We got a lot of questions for him that are going to bring some insight, and of course, most importantly, what it means for us as investors or potential investors. This is the video that we did December 27th of last year when we first started discussing NeoVolta. We'll put a link to it up here in the corner. Should be a really good time. He's an awesome guy, super knowledgeable, and he's going to drop a ton of information that you're not going to hear anywhere else. So make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get notified when that video drops. All right. Now that's out of the way, back to the task at hand. Today's October 18th, and I felt the need to have this video ready for market open on the 19th. Let's get right into it. So today we're sitting at $62,126, and today we're going to be talking about some obvious price catalysts that are coming up this week, and maybe some not so obvious ones that I think are going to have an effect on the price. We'll discuss some of them and see how that could affect how the next couple of weeks and months play out. If you're currently holding Bitcoin, you're probably way up on your position right now, and so the first question is, are we still on track to a massive blow-off peak? Second question, if so, what are the indicators that we're still on track? Third question would be, what's the peak going to be? And the most important question, when? Let's dive into some recent news, some charts, and at least let you know what I'm thinking or what I'm seeing. This chart is looking pretty healthy, I have to say. We're looking pretty healthy here. These are trend lines that I've drawn that are tracking essentially what the bottom of the channel and what the top of the channel is. Here you can see the channel that Bitcoin tried to break out of 3 times. It was essentially riding the top of the channel. That was our blow-off peak back in April, and here we've come down. We came down to capitulation, and here's where we are today. The first catalyst that I'm seeing for Bitcoin is, number one, that we're back past the trend line. And we didn't just pass the trend line, but we passed it with strength. You can see we tried to test it. We were creeping up on it. We were creeping up on it all September, and September 21st, we finally failed miserably, but that was fine because we needed to record a 60-day cycle low, and we wanted that low to be slightly higher than the one that we got in July, which was another confirmation. We did get that, and you can see moving averages went crazy. RSI was also upwards of about 68. We were getting pretty high, and we just failed, turning the trend line, which was a point of resistance, into a point of support. But one thing that's been promising is seeing the moving averages starting to correct themselves. And starting on September 29th, we got 3 strong daily candles that pushed us back up over the 50-day, that then brought us back up to the median, that brought us back up to the trend line. And after some dancing around it, we finally broke through with a powerful candle on the 15th of October. And now we're sitting comfortably here at this level of 60,000. And it doesn't look like we're running back to test the overall trend line anytime soon. So that to me is a bullish indicator that Bitcoin still has a lot to run. It also is the first time in a long time that the moving averages are actually in the correct spot. We can see the 100-day just crossed the 200, the 50-day is comfortably above that, and the 21-day is really starting to get parabolic. Now, why am I not concerned about that? I don't think that the peak is coming now, but seeing the 21-day go parabolic could be an indicator like, oh man, how much does this have to run? I mean, it just can't run up forever. Now that we've discussed where we are in the charts, let's look at some other information that's relevant and then come back to the chart. The first Bitcoin futures exchange traded fund starts trading Tuesday, tomorrow, hence the reason this video is being done tonight. What to know before adding it to your portfolio? The first U.S. Bitcoin futures exchange traded fund launches on Tuesday, a milestone for the cryptocurrency industry. The ProShares ETF will provide exposure to Bitcoin futures contracts, agreements to buy or sell the asset later for an agreed upon price, rather than Bitcoin itself. While there's strong demand for the new asset, financial advisors urge caution before adding Bitcoin futures to the ETF portfolios. Without even getting into the financials of what this means, just the fact that this is happening, it's showing you that the sentiment around Bitcoin is changing. There are people that want exposure to Bitcoin, but are still too scared to actually purchase the asset themselves. So they're essentially trying to force Bitcoin into a financial structure that certain institutions and retail investors are more comfortable with, more like the stock market. It gives them some exposure to it. It's good for us because it brings them over to our side. By our side, I mean people that are holding Bitcoin or that believe in cryptocurrency. It lets them dabble in a way that they're comfortable, and I believe that it's only a matter of time before the general relaxing of some of the fears revolving crypto will also apply to the currency itself. So it's not so much about what the ETFs in specific it's going to do, it's just the fact that it exists. And this is launching this week. Now remember where we were in the charts when I said this, but this is launching tomorrow. That's a strong catalyst, regardless of the price. Like Bitcoin could tank tomorrow as a result, but long term, I still think it's a positive catalyst. And long and short long term, meaning in the next couple of weeks, months, which is what we need. The $38 billion Grayscale Bitcoin Trust will file to be converted into an ETF. This is good news. We could have the first spot Bitcoin ETF on the market near the end of this year, as Grayscale intends to file for SEC approval for its product by early next week, according to CNBC. Founder and CEO of digital currency group Barry Silbert had Grayscale's application for a spot ETF waiting in his back pocket for the SEC to allow Grayscale competitors to enter the market. The investment firm is intended to file its application to the Securities and Exchange Commission as soon as the agency allowed efforts by competitors for a futures-based Bitcoin ETF. That happened late Friday. The approval of Bitcoin ETF products enables a more competitive landscape and also unlocks new pools of capital from different pockets of traditional financial institutions that were previously facing too many hurdles to get exposure to Bitcoin. That is also huge. It's showing a growing demand by institutional investors or investors who control large amounts of money that operate within certain rules that not allow them to purchase Bitcoin. Now, I find the timing of this interesting too. As Bitcoin has been rallying and showing itself to be really resilient, especially in the year that we had overall in the stock market. It's showing a bit of the FOMO. It's not the mania phase. Right now, we're still talking about things that are going to happen in the future. We'll know that we're in the mania phase when people are talking about what Bitcoin is doing at that moment. Bitcoin price is this, it's going to the moon. That's when you get the idea that we might be seeing some cycle peak action. But in general, this is good news, and it's showing that momentum is behind Bitcoin right now. Next bit of good news. My man, the legend, Bob Loukas. If you don't follow Bob Loukas on Twitter, you should. Anyone even interested in getting into Bitcoin or holding any sort of crypto, having access to what's in Bob Loukas' head is absolutely vital. He's incredibly knowledgeable about cycles, and to be perfectly honest, he is the reason that I'm in the position that I'm in with Bitcoin. So again, I can't say enough good things about Bob Loukas. This is what he tweeted on the afternoon of October 18th. Day 26 of the 60-day Bitcoin cycle, consolidating the early cycle gains. In theory, we need to spend more time, 3 to 5 days, consolidating for a good dip first. That completes the first half. Either way, new all-time high looks in the cards before the end of the month. This is an excerpt of his latest video on Bitcoin. This is his take on what we can expect price action-wise from now to the end of the year.
These 17 move and all these moves into the 60-day cycle lows. Many of these were 30 and 35 and 37% declines. Just like we saw one recently. This one wasn't 37%, but this one was 55%. So there's no reason not to expect that. And if we do get a path like this forward, again, you want to expect declines, right, of 30%. $20,000 decline at this level. If it gets up to, let's say, 130 and declines 30,000, that's a $40,000 decline in Bitcoin. So where I said in the beginning, the hardest part's coming up, it's going to be coming up if we get this type of action in the market. And that's because if Bitcoin is at 125,000 and you're in at the lows as per the model portfolio, and you're sitting on so much open profit, what happens is there's this temptation to want to realize that gain because you're just so scared that you're going to lose all that gain. You don't know when to get out if the market turns against you. And when the market starts dropping by 10, 15, 20, and $30,000, it's very easy to see you'll see that open profit begin to drop dramatically, and it's very easy to panic right at that wrong time.
To recap, Bob accurately predicted the cycle low that we saw in September, or around September 21st. I mean, he even tweeted that he predicted it that day. And so according to this, what he's expecting to see,
So
he's got a price target here of somewhere up in the $200,000, somewhere in between April, sort of like May of next year. Intermediately, he's expecting that we will see what will look like a blow-off peak to us in December at some point. At some point in December, of roughly what he said, 125,000. I've seen 135,000. Some people are predicting 177,000, 180,000. But the point is something around over the $100,000, but less than $200,000. We discussed some of the catalysts that I think are going to be playing out over the next couple of days that are going to be building this interest. When he was talking about we need to consolidate for 3 to 5 more days, there's a lot of people that are selling out right now because we are approaching the previous all-time high. And people that don't understand the cycles that Bitcoin is in and where we are, say, within the 4-year cycle and then the 60-day cycles between it, if you're not armed with that knowledge and you're sitting on a huge amount of profit and you're approaching an all-time high, there's going to be a lot of pressure to sell. My belief is that a lot of these institutions, a lot of the effect of the Bitcoin ETF and a lot of the news that's coming up of the Grayscale ETF that's coming is going to be swallowed up in the selling that's happening. If over the next few days we see that the price action doesn't fluctuate all that much, but we have a tremendous amount of volume and RSI is really high, it's an indicator that could be what's behind it. So back to the charts, what we're seeing is, he's talking about 125,000 by December, 125,000 somewhere by December before we have a blow-off peak somewhere at the end of the year, at the middle of next year of over 200,000. Right now we are over the trend line, and RSI is somewhere up to 72, 74 at this point. That's really high. Now, normally, if what you're looking for is a blow-off peak, you'd want to see Bitcoin somewhere over the trend line, but with RSI somewhere down in the 40 and 50 to feel like we have some room to run. But remember, there are 60-day cycles within the 4-year cycle, and we are due to visit a low price within the 60-day cycle. The last one that we saw was September 21st. So just simple mathematics would tell you that somewhere around November 20th, November 21st, we are due for some sort of low. Now, the fact that the RSI is so high is actually a good thing as far as I'm concerned, because it shows that there's a lot of trading happening right now, and at some point that should get exhausted. Now, right now we're October 18th heading into October 19th. So what does that tell me? We might trade around this level for a couple of days and finally push through the all-time high at some point in November. That move past the all-time high is going to trigger a lot of selling and also a lot of fear of people, again, that don't understand the cycles and don't believe like me and some others do that we're going way higher. This is we're just going to blow right past this because we're looking at the big fish that we believe is waiting at the end of the year and possibly May next year. So I expect a lot of selling pressure to happen. It's just normal. If you're holding Bitcoin, it's normal. If you're a hodler, then that doesn't matter to you anyway. You're holding from now, from the next 10 years or whatever it is. But if you're an intermediate or short-term holder that's looking to capitalize on the peak, it's actually a good thing that we go back and consolidate and establish that $60,000 as some sort of base. So the longer we stay around 50, 60,000, it's actually good for us. We're establishing a base of investors that are not going to want to sell at a lower price, which is the definition of switching a resistance level, a previous resistance level, to a new support level. So this is actually looking really good. I mean, I couldn't draw the chart any better at this point in the cycle than where it is right now. Our RSI is looking really high. The moving averages have finally corrected themselves. We are above the trend line, and it looks like we might come back and try and sort of test this trend line as a new support line, which will allow us to spring even higher and effectively erase this this bottom of the channel. We'll have some new level that we'll be able to look up to once we can clear out of this area and feel like we've been in this zone long enough, and now it's time to sort of dance up in this zone. And if we're looking at, say, 60 days exactly, November 21st puts us around here. What does that mean? That November 21st, 45,155 would be the lowest theoretical price unless there's some massive breakdown of Bitcoin. If all accumulation is normal, then we could still be at the 62,500 level and still be normal. So we still have some room to run. We could dance around and chase this. We could actually end up kind of peaking above this 64,000 and then riding what will appear to be a downtrend, but is really just sort of like a consolidation point, an inflection point as the trend line meets with the overall downward trend of the sell pressure, and that could be the catalyst to have us pump up. If that happens, we would be here on November 21st, we'd be around 62.5. So if we did blow past 64 and maybe even break 70, it gives us some room to come back to 62.5, and we would still be at the trend line of the overall trend of this epic run that Bitcoin is in right now. So even if we ended up coming back down and revisiting, say, on November 21st, if we came back and we hit a 62.5 number somewhere around November 21st, we're still at the median. We're still at the trend line of this overall trend line that started about a year ago today. And you can see, if we just go back last year, November 27th is when we saw that low. We got close to the previous all-time high, which was around 20,000 at that point. And then we consolidated back down. But look, again, once Bitcoin hit the trend line, which is around 18, it dipped below it for a second. But after that, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 solid, strong candles that took us up to a new support level that ended up becoming essentially the pivot point for the rally that brought us to $40,000 last year. So personally, I don't necessarily believe that asset classes operate in cycles, but I do believe that people do. And so I believe all of the typical catalysts that were in play, or that you could argue were in play last year at the same time, are coming back around again. A lot of money gets spent towards the end of the year with the holidays, people focusing on family, and I can see that sentiment combined with what's happening with what's happened with COVID over the last couple of years, and the end of the year bonuses given out to employees at this time. I think all of those catalysts are going to come into play in the same way that they did last year. They're going to come into play this year. And finally, the last bit of news that I believe is going to be a catalyst for Bitcoin that might not necessarily be that obvious is Tesla. Tesla accelerating towards Q3 earnings, expecting the unexpected. Although impacted in the short term by macroeconomic forces, the green tidal wave in electric vehicles is expected to continue permeating the auto industry for the foreseeable future. The global semiconductor shortage has been an obstacle, but Tesla is weathering the storm and positioning itself for consensus-beating deliveries. The electric automaker is expected to report earnings after market close on Wednesday, October 20th. Delivering his optimism on the stock is Dan Ives of Wedbush Securities, who is anticipating an impressive Q3 beat and raise come Wednesday. He attributes Tesla's potential success to its monthly sales already exceeding expectations and China's rebound in EV deliveries. Ives rated the stock with a bullish buy and reiterated his $1,000 price target. This target represents a possible 12-month upside of 18.62% from current levels. So why is this important? A lot of people attributed the crash of Bitcoin that happened in May to Elon Musk saying that he would no longer accept Bitcoin as a form of purchase to purchase a Tesla, while also raising concerns about the energy consumption. This is after he announced that both Tesla and SpaceX bought a position in Bitcoin. Part of what they're going to announce on Wednesday is how much that Bitcoin investment has grown over the last couple of months. And Elon Musk's Tesla is already $1 billion in profit from holding Bitcoin. Tesla currently holds roughly 43,200 Bitcoin, worth roughly $2.5 billion at today's prices, according to online monitoring resource Bitcoin Treasuries. This is approximately 65% or $1 billion more than what the car maker paid in February when Elon Musk's company revealed that it had added $1.5 billion in Bitcoin to its balance sheet. So once again, there is a lot of momentum behind Tesla right now. They are having an incredible quarter and set to have an incredible year, completely disrupting the auto industry, record sales, record profit margins, and they're also holding Bitcoin. So with all the positive news and the catalyst that is for Tesla stock, part of that story is going to be how they made a wise investment in Bitcoin at the beginning of the year, and they're sitting on a huge amount of profit. I believe I also saw some news that he has said that they plan to use that profit to build gigafactories, so they will be selling at some point. But just the fact that they are showing the blueprint to other companies about what crypto can do for you by moving even a small allocation of your cash into Bitcoin, I think is also going to create a domino effect. This is part of what I think is going to be the FOMO that starts at or around after we hit the cycle low in November. You now have end of the year, all of this pressure. You have these companies seeing what happened with Tesla, record quarter, record deliveries, record profit margins, a great investment in Bitcoin, made $1 billion, using that to fund factories that are going to make them more money in the future. I think as of Wednesday, they will have kind of completed what the investment cycle is and what's possible for institutions that hold Bitcoin, because all these other companies have to be sitting there saying, we had money that we could have put into this and we didn't, and look at what could have happened for us if we did, using Tesla as a blueprint. I can't see how this is not a massive positive catalyst, and all of this is happening this week. Okay, so let's wrap this out. And let's draw a conclusion here. The overall conclusion, the overall thesis is that Bitcoin will be over $100,000 in some point in December. 125, 135, whatever your particular price target is. I personally think we'll be over $100,000. I think that we'll actually hit the peaks somewhere around December 17th. I personally plan to be taking some profit. Could be a wise move to take some profit, maybe not take the whole position off the table if you do believe that we're going to see the true blow-off peak in a few months, which would be a blow-off peak that happens in the first year of the next 4-year cycle, as Bob is counting the cycles. Might be a good idea to take some profit at that point. I plan to take some profit there. If Bitcoin is there for me, I plan to be there and do the right thing and sell it and harvest some of the profit that I've been waiting on for a long time. I will keep a core position in the chance that it does hit record all-time highs of $200,000, but I will definitely be taking some profit in the mid-December timeframe if the prices are what we need. So how do we get there? I think what we can expect to see is a bit of a spike in Bitcoin. It may or may not break its all-time high, but either way, it will be riding that level. And I do think we're going to see a consolidation that's going to force Bitcoin somewhere around the 21st into an inflection point, where somewhere on or around November 21st, we will put in that low, that cycle low, and the cycle low will be on the trend line, which will effectively turn that previous point of resistance into support, eradicating this lower trend line that we have here that was riding the low that we visited all the way back in July. We'll just erase that and never look back, which will essentially create blue skies for Bitcoin above the previous all-time high trend line. And who knows? I don't know exactly the path that it's going to take, but my basic thesis is that somewhere around November 21st, we're going to put that low in. It's going to be on the trend line. We're going to start in a parabolic move as institution and retail investors come in. We're going to have like two or three weeks of just absolute mania, and we'll know that the mania is there because they're going to be talking about the current Bitcoin price, what's happening. It won't be about catalysts that's happening in the future. A lot of the attention is going to just be focused on what's happening now and how high it will go. People will be rushing to beat themselves and outdo themselves with some crazy price projections. Of course, none of them really know what they're talking about. People like us that have been following the charts and following known experts in this, like a Bob Lucas, are way better equipped for what's coming next, because like he mentioned in his video, on the way up to 100-something thousand, you could see these 20-30% declines, which are not fun. They're $20,000-$30,000. It's going to be really hard to hold, but if you have that conviction, I do believe that there is a prize waiting for you, at least an intermediate price somewhere around December 17th of anywhere in here. We could see anything in here from $120,000 to $130,000, somewhere there. And then further out, it's anyone's guess. The further out we go in the future, it's harder to see what's going to happen there because we just don't know the path that we're going to take. We also don't know what's going to be happening in the world. But all things being equal, we could see a major consolidation. All things being equal, we could see a major consolidation. But we might come back down. We might come back down and test this. We might come back down to the $70,000 level, coming back down from $130,000, in which case people will forget about Bitcoin. It's the end of the world. It's tanked, blah, blah, blah. I also believe that around this time, Ethereum should be pumping. We haven't really talked about Ethereum yet, but these two sort of trade market caps, and there's a bit of a seesaw action that happens in these bull markets where you can almost see the profit taken from Bitcoin trickling down into Ethereum. And so I believe that at this point here, somewhere in January, when we're looking at not all-time lows, but local lows for Bitcoin, I do believe that Ethereum is going to be running just fine. And so, assuming that is the case, however it is that we get here, somewhere in like mid-January, we could be down at the $70-something thousand level. And again, now Ethereum runs and we get a huge peak in Ethereum, you could actually look at some of my other videos to see what my price target is. I'm thinking somewhere around $15,000. A lot of people holding a lot of Ethereum. Bitcoin's going to suddenly not be so expensive. If you're holding 4 or 5 Ethereum coins at that point, you're going to be able to pick up a Bitcoin if it's exceptionally low, considering what its all-time high was, and that in and of itself can trigger another round of FOMO that gets us up to the $200,000 level when we finally get the institutions to buy in. And so, again, it's not the prettiest chart the way I'm drawing it right now, but the point is still the same. Peak somewhere in the middle of December at $120,000 to $140,000, followed by another peak somewhere in May or April, May-ish, anywhere in this area that is upwards of the $200,000 level, depending on how much momentum we have going in. So there you have it. I'm obviously really bullish on crypto. Let me know below if you're holding crypto, what you're holding, what your price targets are, what you think of my case here, and I want you guys to hold me accountable. I mean, I'm putting this stuff out there because this is what I'm basing my own moves on, and it'll be cool to look back and see how it all actually played out. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you like this content, please hit like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. We'll see you next time.